Hey everybody, Rob here at etrailer.com, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Curt Class III Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2014 Toyota Highlander. Now I really like the way this hitch looks, mainly because the cross tube is completely hidden behind the bumper, so the only thing we're really going to be seeing is the receiver tube sticking out. And I don't know about you, but I really don't want a big bar hanging down below my Highlander, taking away and distracting from the looks. So I just think it has a really clean, almost factory appearance to it. Now it is a Class III hitch, which means it's going to give us that 2" by 2" receiver tube opening and have the widest variety when it comes to accessories that we can mount. You can easily put a ball mount in here, tow a trailer, throw a bike rack in here, go to the park with some friends or family and take a bike ride, or put a cargo carrier back here and make some more room on the inside of your Highlander. But regardless of how you're going to be using your hitch, all of your accessories are going to mount to the hitch pin hole here on the side. Now the hitch is going to accept a standard 5/8 pin and clip. Now these are not going to come with the hitch, but you can find them here at etrailer.com, along with some locking devices to keep your accessories secure and anti-rattle devices to cut down on that annoying rattling sound when you're driving down the road. Now if you are going to be towing a trailer, obviously you need a spot to hook up your safety chains, and here we have a loop style welded to the bottom of the receiver tube. And if you have what I consider most normal size hooks, we'll have plenty of room to get them hooked on, take them off, and even if you have some of the larger hooks, there's still plenty of room to get them hooked on. And the fact that our receiver tube is out just a little bit from the rear bumper means we're not going to have to worry about scratching the bottom of our car when we go to hook up or take off our chains. That brings me to one thing I do want to mention. You can see our receiver tube is going to stick out just a little bit past the very edge of our bumper. Now it's only going to be about 2 inches, so it's not a big major thing sticking out, but you do want to be mindful if you're loading or unloading the rear hatch because we don't want to hit our leg. But if you're looking for a hitch, you obviously have something you want to do with it, so the weight capacity is going to be a pretty important thing. Our hitch has a 500-pound tongue weight. That's going to be the maximum downward force at the end of the receiver tube. To put that in perspective, we're really going to be able to maximize the carrying capacity of those large cargo carriers, or maybe even be able to carry 4, 5, maybe even 6 bikes with us on a bike rack. Now it's also going to have a 5,000-pound gross trailer weight rating. That's how much the hitch can pull, but that does include the trailer and everything we have loaded on it. So with those numbers in mind, I do urge you to double check your Highlander's owner's manual, because again, those are the ratings for our hitch, and we don't want to exceed the manufacturer's rating for our car. I'd like to give you a few measurements, and these are going to help you out when you're looking for accessories for your new hitch, like a ball mount, a bike rack, or even a cargo carrier. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper is going to be just about even, but our receiver tube is going to stick out about 2 inches past our bumper, so you just want to keep that measurement in mind. Now from the ground to the inside top edge of the receiver tube opening, it's going to be right about 16 1/4 inches. That measurement is going to help you whenever you're looking for a ball mount, so you can find the appropriate rise or drop to match up to your trailer. But now that we've seen what our hitch looks like, we've gone over some of the features, let's go and bring it in the shop and go through the installation process together. To begin our installation, we're going to come to the very back of our Highlander, and we're going to come underneath the driver's side, and we're going to find a panel that's going to be covering up the bottom of the frame here. We need to pull this panel out. And if we look around the edge, we're going to have several fasteners holding it in. We'll have a few bolts that are holding it in, as well as a few push pins. So we're going to grab a 10mm socket. We're going to pull all the bolts out. Once you have all the bolts out, we can move to the push pins. And if we look closely, there's a couple little notches that are going around it. We're going to grab a flat blade screwdriver, bring it into that notch, and we're going to pry out the center section first. Make sure it actually pops out of there. And then it'll take off the tension from the push pin and allow us to come underneath the base and pull the rest of it out. We're going to have one here at the corner, and then at the very back we're going to have another one. So we'll pull both of those out. And then if we come in between the spare tire and the panel itself, kind of up high at the top of the panel, there's a couple plastic retaining nuts that are holding the panel in place. So you want to grab a 12mm socket to loosen those up. Now most likely when you go to loosen these nuts up, they're not actually going to come off the panel. So what I like to do is loosen them while I'm pulling down on the panel so it'll actually come loose. Now there is going to be two of them, one towards the front of our Highlander and then one towards the back. So once we have those loose, we'll work the panel out. And then we'll set this aside. We do have the option of reinstalling it. There will be some trimming that's needed, or we can leave it off. And we're going to have another panel over on the passenger side. It's not 100% necessary to remove it, but it will make it a lot easier. So we'll just go through, pull all the bolts and push pins out so we can pull that panel out. Now at the very front of that panel on the passenger side, we're also going to have this bracket. Now this bracket is being held in by a 17mm head bolt in the bottom of the frame. So you can grab yourself a 17mm socket and extension. And we should be able to just kind of grab the exhaust, just flex it a little bit over. So we can loosen that bolt and get the bracket out. Then if we move back to the back of the frame, we're going to have our tie-down hook. Now there's two bolts going into the bottom of the frame. You're going to use those same 17mm head bolts. So we'll use that same socket and pull those out as well. Now if we move just back of where that tie-down hook was, we'll have this plastic air deflector. This is actually going to be in the way of getting our hitch in place because our hitch is actually going to sit right behind the bottom of the bumper here. So we can take a marker, and I'm just going to mark pretty close to the edge. We don't need to cut it all the way flush with it, but we want to get it pretty close. And we're going to be trimming all of this material off. So just want to make a clean, straight cut. Now you can use just about whatever you have to cut this, even if it's just a pair of tin snaps, a razor knife making several passes, or you can use a rotary tool like I'm going to do, and just make a quick, clean cut. And now that the main section is removed, we can always come back with a file or something and just kind of clean up the excess plastic and give it a nice smooth edge. Now on the bottom of each frame rail, we're going to have a few plastic and rubber plugs. We want to go ahead and pull all these out. Now the ones that have the little notch in there, those will actually unthread. You just get a flat blade screwdriver. And typically you can just twist them out. It's got little tabs in there. Pull those out, and then the rubber ones, you just want to come underneath, pull it out with a screwdriver. And we're going to have the same plugs on both sides of the frame. So you want to pull all of these out on both sides. We don't need to worry about the side of the frame. We're just worrying about the bottom and all the coverings that are in there. Now right behind the spare tire, just to the inside of the frame, we're going to have these fascia supports, and they're just held in by plastic push pins again. So we'll just get our flat blade screwdriver. We're going to loosen up those push pins and then pull them out. And you kind of want to just push the arm out of the way. And then we'll have another one towards the center. This one we just want to make sure we pull out, and this will just give us a little bit of flex on the fascia when we go to put the hitch in place. And we're going to have two more on the other side. So you're going to make sure you pull those out as well. So now that everything's prepped, we can go over the mounting locations and the combination of hardware. On each frame rail, we'll have those 3 threaded holes. Each one of those is going to be a mounting location. And in your kit, you're going to get a new bolt, and you're going to get conical tooth washers. You're going to slide the washers so that the teeth are facing up towards the hitch. And once we have our hitch in place, go through the hitch bracket, and then we're going to secure the hitch down with one of these bolts and a conical tooth washer. It's going to be the same combination for all 6 mounting locations, 3 on each side. Now I do recommend getting an extra set of hands to lift the hitch up, but we're going to go over our exhaust. We want to line up the holes in our hitch with the holes in the side of the frame. We'll take our bolt and conical tooth washer, and you want to get at least one bolt in on each side. That way the hitch will support itself, hang itself, and then we can work on getting the rest of the hardware in place. Once you have all the bolts in place, we'll grab a 19mm socket and snug them all up. You want to make sure you come back with a torque wrench. We're going to torque all of our hardware down to the specified amount in the instructions. Go back and repeat that for any remaining hardware you have. Now, our passenger side panel can be worked back in place without any trimming, but the driver's side, if you do want to put it back on, it is going to need to be trimmed. So we'll just line up our panel, work it in place, and then we can start replacing all the fasteners. For our driver's side panel, I went ahead and marked out the area it needs to be trimmed. And fortunately, we can kind of use the ribs as a guide. So right where that opening is, if we come right down the center and we go towards the curved section, just want to run it right along that lip here. We want to save that mounting point, so just right along the edge, come up to this other rib here, and we're going to be taking out this entire section here. Now towards the front of the car, we're going to take out this little corner piece, kind of wraps around so that the back of the hitch has place to fit in as well. And again, you can use just about whatever you have available. Just keep in mind that these are a guideline in the instructions, so what I like to do is trim a little bit as possible, test fit it, and then trim as needed, because once we cut the material, we can't put it back. Once you have your panel trimmed out, again, kind of do a dry test fit. And the easiest way I've found to get these panels back in place is if you line up the studs with the two nuts that were on the inside here. You should be able to just push those back in and it'll hold the panel. And then we can kind of just start working the panel back into the pocket it needs to fit in. Then it's just a matter of putting all the fasteners back in. With the push pins, you want to leave that center section still sticking out. Push the base in to the panel, and then push that center pin to lock it down. And we'll just go through, and again, start replacing all the fasteners, putting the panel back in place. Now the final step is going to be putting those push pins back in on the large fascia supports. The inner ones, the smaller ones right here, obviously we're not going to be able to get access to those because the hitch is actually taking up the space, but these are still lined up, so we'll go ahead and put the push pins back in place. But with all the panels back in place, that'll finish up your installation and your look at the Curt Class III Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2014 Toyota Highlander.